Hey, everybody. First of all, welcome back to Homebrewers Corner. I know it has been a while, but there's just been a bunch of stuff going on, both with the show and personally and everything like that. So I'm really excited to be back to it. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. So we're going to continue going through the missions in Keys from the Golden Vault. We are up to mission number 3, which is Reach for the Stars. And let me just let me dive into kind of my impressions on this here. So first of all, more than other missions, this mission has a lot of room to introduce plot twists and reversals and etc. And that makes it a really handy mission, I think, to use, and a mission that can be ported to your campaign very, very easily. I think that this is, so far, of the missions that I've read through the book, this is one of the ones that I think is probably the easiest to go ahead and kind of build around as a building block, kind of like the end of like a 3 adventure cycle or something like that. I think it would really be very, very useful. And different from some of the other missions, the hooks that they offer, the Golden Vault hooks that in particular, maybe not the Golden Vault hook, but certainly the if you don't use the Golden Vault, here's some other options. Those hooks are really, really good, and that's what makes it so versatile, is they really kind of gives you some great ideas on how to kind of bring them into your campaign. So many of the plot ties make for it's a trap kind of moments that if your players don't see it coming, you can go ahead and use that to your advantage. If they do see it coming, it adds a nice layer of pressure and everything like that to your adventure. So that's always really helpful also. I think that in this one, the reliance on the otherworldly entity is a little bit too much, and I don't say that I don't like the fact that the mission is written around an eldritch entity. I particularly like that sort of aesthetic. What I think is, here's one example, right? When you think about how important knowing, as the players knowing that entity's true name, and how hard that is going to be to discover, but how important it is to completing the mission. Getting through locked doors is going to require it. Getting through certain kind of magical locks, you're going to need it to go ahead and important. So it's a super important piece of information that but it doesn't have any way, the players don't have any way of learning it in the scope of this mission, right? So that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about, that in that way, it almost means that this mission requires 1 or 2 precursor missions to go ahead and to set it up, to go ahead and include this information in it so that you can go ahead and give your players a chance of actually solving the mystery of it, right? So imagine a situation where maybe they meet a member of the family in mission number 1 and they have to go ahead and do some things for them. Then they wind up getting killed or disappearing or something like that at the end of that mission, and then the second mission they wind up having to go to Candlekeep to go ahead and do some research on it, and they're able to go ahead and find this information about what may be going on at the mansion. And then the third mission is actually this heist mission where you have to go ahead and do the thing. That arc is very, very cool, and I think that one of the things that really sets it up nicely is that the mansion itself is really, really cool. I think that your players are really going to enjoy the layout, and I think the drawn map versus actual map dichotomy on this one is better than some of the other ones. I think sometimes it gets a little hokey where it's like, well, I know this environment, but I don't know it very well, and so who knows what's going on. This kind of plays into that a little bit better, and so I think that's a really strong point. Not to mention that one of my favorite things to go ahead and throw at my players is a sturge infestation, infestation rather, and it's one of my favorite tropes. I love it. There is one in this book, in the mansion. Fabulous. Gotta love it. And I think kind of the last bit is that the monster at the end of the adventure is really, really creepy and good. The fact that you're dealing with kind of a made real fragment of this eldritch being turned into a person enemy thing, really, really great. And I think that it will really help bring the mission into your game, because it gives you kind of that lieutenant level big bad to go ahead and trot out there. I think that this mission sets up really, really well with a couple of precursor missions. And that poses an interesting challenge for the rubric that I've set up to go ahead and do this. So let's kind of talk about that for just a second here. So if you remember, I laid out these 5 criteria to go ahead and say, how well does this homebrew, how well does this adventure come to your game? And I think that particularly when you find this adventure and when we talk about the next one, Prisoner 13, there are going to be some interesting things that happens to the rubric. So let's go ahead and get into it. So talking about the mission as a whole first, I gave it a 3 out of 4. I think that the mission needs a little bit of help, but not a lot. And once you get to this mission, you can use it pretty much exactly as it is, and I think it would be fabulous. Talking about the NPCs, I gave them a 3 also because the NPCs are compelling. The monsters are really, really good. I think that the spiritual head in the tree is a lot of fun. So I think that that's really an excellent option for bringing. You can reuse them. You can go ahead and tie them into plot points that occur earlier before you get to this mission. All that sort of stuff. It's all right there for you. It's great. The map's excellent. The mansion map is fantastic. Use it, love it. Use it exactly as it is in there. Like I said, you get that sturge infestation on the second floor. Those are always a lot of fun. So at least in my mind, I find it. So yeah. Talking about the vault hook itself, the vault hook is pretty weak, but the other hooks are so much stronger. That's why I only graded this a 2 out of 4 on this one. I'm not finding that the vault hooks in general are pretty compelling. I'll be honest with you. So we'll kind of keep talking about that as we go through these here. And here's kind of where it falls off, is that the mission itself is so strong and so portable that there aren't an awful lot of elements that I would take out of this mission by themselves and bring to another mission. And that's kind of what the wildcard category was for. It was for anything that didn't fit into the other 4 categories that I would want to go ahead and bring across. This one really didn't have that. I want to bring the entire thing across, and so that's kind of so it helps it score really high on mission and NPCs and map, but it winds up losing points for me here. And so its total score for this one is going to be a 13. Right now, that places it in the. I think it's tied for second right now. This is only the 3rd mission. There was one that was a 16, and this is the second 13 that I've seen here. So a really good mission and one that's really going to be useful to you at your table if you wanted to go ahead and homebrew with it. So, yeah, anyway, as always, that's my thoughts on Reach for the Stars. Tell me your thoughts. I would love to go ahead and hear you. Have you played Reach for the Stars? Have you used it in your campaign? Have you run it by itself? Tell me what your thoughts are. I'd love to go ahead and hear them.